What's going on, everyone? Today we're here with Michael Jai White. Now, many of you have seen him in a lot of movies. I know many of you who are very fans of his, and it's great to speak to this brother. So, Michael, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Michael, a lot of people, if you put in the search right now on YouTube, Michael Jai White, the first thing that comes up, and I've seen a video that had millions of views, is your fight scenes. Now, for me, you have been recognized as the top premier martial artist in the black community. Why do you think that happened?
Well, I mean, it's not a whole lot in the movie industry, period. But action-wise, it's few and far between, and so there were people that paved the way for me, but a lot of them have passed on or have are not doing it anymore. I feel proud to step be in the footsteps of folks like Jim Kelly, and one a personal hero of mine is a guy named Ron Van Cleef, who's been he was like the first international black martial art action star, and he's a good friend and somebody who I look up to.
So when you got into martial arts, I heard that you got into it around what, maybe about 6 years old, somewhere around there.
Yeah, about 7 years old, I started getting into martial arts.
So what got you interested in martial arts? I mean, because was it a lot of movies you saw, or you just had just a desire?
Yeah, it was just like anything, like where you identify something that you connect with. I think the first time I saw a martial art movie, I just connected with the prowess, the strength of it, and it kind of stuck with me, and I wanted to do it ever since.
So on top of excelling in martial arts, it was something that I was reading that you end up becoming later on a teacher in a junior high school.
Yeah, yeah. I was a teacher before I was an actor. A professional actor. I taught EMD, emotionally disturbed children. I was basically a special ed teacher, and it's something that's very close to my heart, and something I take part in still to this day. I do a lot of speaking to at-risk kids, pretty much people who are very much like myself.
Yeah, because I had an interview with a teacher actually last week, and one conversation that we was having is that the children, especially within our community, don't have a lot of teachers that look like them, especially black men.
True.
And
True.
so, why is it that you said, man, I got to take on teaching, and why is it something that's really promoted more in our community?
Well,
In your
I
opinion?
don't know why. I wish it would be more promoted in our community. For me, I feel like my life was saved by a teacher, and so my connection with that is pretty deep. A teacher kind of really connected with me at a very important moment when I was on the line of being a thug, or just going a whole different direction. And a teacher that I respected a great deal, and named Mr. Carsage, wrote a letter to me that really touched me, and something about impressing this man set me on a course of just kind of an alternate route to honor and respect for myself. And so that changed my life. And my mother was a teacher as well, and I learned that quite by accident that I had a talent for teaching. I first started as a substitute teacher, and then when I realized I was, had a chance to reach kids who were very much like me, I knew this was a talent I had to really investigate, and I ended up teaching for 3 more years in my own classroom before I ultimately started going to the acting.
So you left teaching, you went into acting.
Hmm.
How did your students feel when you told them, "Hey, Mr. White not gonna be here anymore"? How's that day?
Well, that's the way it is every year, really,
Hmm.
because you say goodbye to your students, and they move on to another grade level. So, but luckily, my last year of teaching, uh, I left, and I eventually I booked a very major play, and I was studying. I was auditioning for this play. It was To Kill a Mockingbird, um, and it was to play the lead role of Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird with Tony Award winners George Grizzard and Catherine Hooton, who's these major like theater people, and and part of I turned part of my audition for To Kill a Mockingbird into a lesson, because to Kill a Mockingbird was about looking at life through other people's footsteps. And if you're familiar with the it was a movie at first, but with the story, it's of a man, Tom Robinson, who's accused of doing something that the townspeople pretty full well know he didn't do. But because of the times, this man who was innocent um, was sentenced to, basically sentenced to death, only because, that time period, this man couldn't get a fair shake. And so that turned into a teachable lesson for my students, who eventually, once I won the role, I got those students to come to the performance, this off Broadway performance, where they saw their teacher on a stage that cost $2 million. The special effects of this play was over $2 million. So for these kids to see and help me prepare for this audition of a role that they eventually saw me in was a great moment in my life. So I mean, my departure in from teaching was pretty incredible for myself and my students.
Now, any of those students to this day, have any of them like email you or try to contact you
Oh,
about what's going on in their life now?
oh yeah, one of the things I'm most proud in my life about is turning these kids who had major problems into functioning adults, and I keep in contact with most of them, and I mean, is to be able to affect people's lives in a positive way is something that, that's almost like I feel like somewhat of a surrogate parent to some degree.
Right. And I heard you earlier stating that this one teacher, you wanted to impress him because you was dealing with an issue of possibly becoming a thug. And we have a lot of kids that watch this show. I mean, they write me all the time about issues they deal with. Did you feel any kind of peer pressure to become a thug, or just something that you was just possibly just thinking about, or feel that's the only way out?
No, because see, growing up how I grew up, you have this angst, you have this fire in you, and like fire, it can cook the food or it could burn the house down. So you grow up with this anger, and this you know this pain, that of your environment and stuff. And then what you tend to do is you build armor. And so in essence, like a lot of people, I built armor, and I was ready to fight. I had all this angst and I had to have a place to put it. Luckily, I started putting it in the martial arts, you know, and instead of letting and acting out what was already inside of me. So, um, yeah, I loved to fight back in the day, and I loved to fight with people who could fight. And like a lot of the people, like a lot of the students I were to later teach, I was able to teach them about themselves and let them understand where their angst was coming from. Because there's a whole life that is not shown to you, and you know that there's something bigger, and you don't know how to reach for it. And so that was part of the reason why I was such an angry child. And so I've been dedicated to bringing back the message of how there are all these alternate roads to honor and success in this life. But it takes people like myself who prosper from a good education to come back and teach kids, because they're not going to know this, because they don't really have a lot of role models in the hood. They have one type of role model. They don't have others that prosper from a good education that they respect coming back and teach them that, hey, there's a much better road to this, you know. So that's something I'm committed to.
And kids would have a lot of respect, for people like you that were in their position, because you have teachers in schools, and a lot of times they're Caucasian females. They can't relate to that anger. They can't relate to the environment,
Yeah,
and
a
then
lot
they
of
may.
times. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, but a Caucasian female. A lot of people who grew up in the hood, they know how to pull the heartstrings of somebody like that really quick. Any female. I mean, a lot of kids who grow up in a single parent household, they know how to manipulate, their mom and grandmother and auntie, and get their way around it by giving a sob story, or what have you, and not to paint all women with the same brush, but you know it is something um, that a lot of people in the inner city, they it's a law of the jungle situation there. So sometimes it's harder um, for some females, just like it's hard for females for moms to bring up male children. It's just harder, you know. And so a lot of people are faced with uh, folks who are honed in on finding your Achilles heel, your weakness, and exploiting that, because that's what you have to learn on the street. Let me find the weakness in this person. Let me find the vulnerability, and I'm going to use that. And so you got teachers who are begging these kids to learn, or just begging them to pay attention for 2 minutes, you know, and it's completely flipped, man. These teachers, they ain't in control of the classrooms anymore, and it's just sadly the way it is.
Yeah, man, that's extremely sad. That's why I was kind of pointing out that the kids would have respect more, let's say, someone that came from their environment and
Yeah,
teach them, because they can see the game they presenting. They say, wait a minute, hold on, young man. I already know what you're doing,
right,
and
right.
that's why I encourage a lot of brothers, if you can get involved with teaching, do that. But you eventually, like I say, left teaching. You acted on stage. Your kids saw you, so
Hmm.
now you eventually get into acting, and that is your passion.
Hmm.
But many of us seen you in action roles. But when you eventually crossed over and started doing, let's say, the first Tyler Perry movie you done, I mean, that was like completely 180 from what we were used to seeing. And how did you go from just the action star to more so romantic comedy?
It happened in reverse. See, some people who don't know, they think it happened that way. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's completely reversed. Everything I did first was acting in dramatic and comedic roles. People know me from the Mike Tyson story, first and foremost. And before that, it was a lot of roles on television, and then Spawn. None of those were martial arts roles at all. And then I did a lot of other type of things that way. Pandora's Box, a whole lot of, I did mainly acting stuff. But soon as I started doing roles that had the martial arts in it, people started to think of me as the martial arts guy because it's so unique, right? And so I've been doing those roles like the Tyler Perry stuff all along. But the martial art movies get a whole lot of attention. See what I'm saying? So, I mean, because, like, of course, everybody knows me as Spawn first,
Right.
before all of that stuff. And Tyler Perry knew me as the guy who played Spawn in Mike Tyson. And then here's the Why Did I Get Married, which is a comedy, and then we do 6 years of the the TV show, but I've been connected to a lot of TV shows and what have you. If you look at my list of credits, there's more dramatic and regular straight acting stuff than action. But but it's understandable, but because like I say, action speaks loud. But uh, it kind of, I knew it would have a tendency to define who I was, because generally people do one type of thing and not a diversity. So, I understand it. I'm not mad about it, but yeah, it did happen in reverse. And I've always been doing the comedy and drama stuff.
Well, which one do you prefer? You prefer the comedy and drama or the martial arts? Which one you prefer?
I love it all. And even when I do the martial arts, if you, anything that I've ever produced, that had me doing any martial arts, I challenge you to take out the martial arts of that movie, and it's still a good movie. You know, if people like me from Blood and Bone, what the movie is about is not about the kicking and punching. It's it's a story about me, righting the wrong of a friend. Um, but so yeah, the martial arts might be a part of it, but it's not the only thing that is significant in it. Even though there are martial arts movies that's all it's about is martial arts. Um, but I don't like to, I don't have a tendency to do those. I like to do stories that might have that action in it.
Now, you mentioned earlier Spawn, and like I said, I saw Spawn. I thought it was, a great movie. And now you look at a movie like Black Panther that
Mm.
really did very well. And you know better than me the myth they had at one point in time where, a movie with a predominantly black cast can't do well overseas. So now we have Black Panther. Do you see some change coming along the line in the area of major film for black actors and actresses?
Well, by virtue of that movie, it has changed. The whole narrative has to change because, but I already knew that that was a fallacy that black movies didn't sell overseas. The thing that is omitted from that declaration is white movies and black movies are alike. They both perform the same way. You could say white movies don't sell overseas if you frame it in the same way. I'll explain it. Well, most black movies are comedies and dramas, right? Most
Mm-hmm.
white movies are comedies and dramas. White comedies and dramas don't sell overseas. Overseas in China and every other country, they have their own comedians and dramatic actors. They don't need ours, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we sell is action. We blow up stuff and everything else, and that has a tendency to be mostly white. All right, so but it's not a white movie. There's no such thing as a black action movie that didn't sell overseas. Period. That's why Wesley Snipes has been as solvent as he has been all these years, right? Because he's an action star. Uh, if there were more black action movies, there would be black movies that would sell overseas. I'm living proof. The I still have a career because I've done action movies that sell overseas. But being that I'm one of the few that do these things, like I'm getting ready in 6 days I do like my third movie in Romania. See, I've been doing movies in different countries like this for a very long time. And this is only because my movies sell overseas. Well, just ask yourself this. Do we know any Chinese, Russian, uh, Belgian stars who are comedians or are dramatic actors? No. The ones that we know, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Jean-Claude Van Damme, um, Tony Jaa from Ong
Mm-hmm.
Bak, people like that, they're the only people we know from those countries. Why? Because they do action movies, right? So
Right.
I go to countries where people don't even know who Denzel Washington is. As crazy as that sounds. because and I try to explain it to them, and they're like, "Who?" And all they could think of is like, "Oh, do you mean Book of Eli?" See, because they don't need our dramatic actors, whether they're black or white. See what I'm saying? We make the big Hollywood blockbusters, and that's what we sell. But usually it's because it's an action element. So that narrative is so wrong, right? It's just because most black movies are not action. You can say most black movies don't sell overseas, but most white movies aren't action either. You can say most white movies don't sell overseas. It's the same thing as saying black on black crime. That's like we have a stigma of black on black crime, but every ethnicity do crime within that own community. But white on white crime is more prevalent than black on black crime. I mean, in the numbers, what
Oh yeah.
Asian on Asian crime is what would naturally happen because that's you tend to do crime with the people you're around. But there's this labeling, so they say black movies don't sell overseas. That's ridiculous. Black dramas don't sell overseas. But here's something that's really funny. When you try to say black whatever don't sell overseas, more black content sells overseas than any ethnicity in the planet. Case in point, music. Hip hop is the most pervasive music on the planet. And where did it come from? I don't care if I'm in Romania, China, or whatever. When I channel surf, I see people emulating the African American culture all the time in their music. I see them embracing rapping and hip hop style. So if we want to talk about a culture that is identifiable overseas, it's ridiculous to think that white culture is what is emulated more overseas than black culture. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So if you're looking at the movies and all that, and I know because I'm over there. So it's the way you frame the argument. Okay, most people will frame an argument in a way where it's true, but you got to sometimes know what they're not saying.
Well, that's something I focus on all the time here. So, for instance, earlier when you mentioned about crime, you're right. It's wherever you live, that's where the crime is going to be prevalent at. But unfortunately, due to a lot of propaganda against the black community and putting certain things out there, being misleading, that's why they lead these little myths. And basically, you broke it down to a science from that industry. And you're right. Definitely, I know people who have so-called fell off in hip hop here in the U.S., but then they can go to Europe, they can go to Australia, they can go to wherever else and sell out like they still making music.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So since you've been overseas, and I know Nigeria has their own big movie industry, I think Nollywood. Have you ever
Yeah.
been approached by any of them to act over there?
No, not seriously. I mean, I not on a level of flying over here and sitting down to a serious meeting. So not that I would be opposed to. I would love to do that. I've been in Africa several times, and I feel like Africa is a great place to embrace movie making, and it's something that I intend on doing with my new company. I'm doing my public launch of Jaigantic tomorrow at 4 p.m. on Facebook Live on the real Michael Jai White on Facebook, and I'm doing a launch of my website and my new movie that I'm financing. Um, but yeah, I intend on doing a lot of these things because my brand is going to be a global brand, and I've got movies coming up this year that you know will be shot in different locales, and one of them, the part of the setting is South Africa.
Talk about your gigantic studios, because when I looked into that, I thought that was just awesome. That what you're doing. Explain to people about how that studio you're stating it's going to be fan funded content. So further explain that to us.
Well, see, this particular movie, I got 6 offers to fully finance this movie, but I'm choosing to do it with the fan base involved. And a lot of times when they have crowdfunding type of stuff, they get the budget up for the movie, and you don't hear nothing from that movie until it's done. Well, in this situation, I'm going to be in connection with the fans from the from right now until we are in the theaters to where I can um, thank them in person. But so what this is, I mean, we're gonna have a lot of interactive stuff. The fans could win a walk-on role to the movie, and this is the way that we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff. I'm gonna be doing a lot of things from this gigantic website. I'm gonna have my fitness applications, and I'm gonna be doing very social conscious things from this site, and eventually sell my own materials. And it's going to be something that's going to be very community conscious. And see, I want to bring the community back to the theaters. And when I have my films, I'm going to travel around to the community and shake hands and thank them for being you know part of that part of the fan base. And I've learned a great deal from Tyler Perry, from Will Packer, and other people who really influenced me. And yeah, I foresee something that could be very special. And and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, if let's say people create, content, maybe movies, documentaries, could they also approach you and say, hey, Michael, through Gigantic Studios, do you do distribution?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to be set up to do a lot of these things. At first, we're going to focus on some of our own content.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last half of the year, I've got some big, very global action movies that I'm going to be doing. But we're going to be open to looking at things that fit our brand, things that are universal, things that I feel that are positive, uplifting stories that you can't find anywhere else. Because see, sometimes with studios and television, all that, it's a business, and it's not necessarily about um, uplifting or it's not hitting the chord that I'm trying to, because it's not about making money. Making money is not what's primary to me, so that's what's going to be different. uh, I'm not really trying to get to the whole bottom line thing with studios, where everybody's thinking about job security and they gotta make this money. I'd rather make much less money and make people happy.
And we definitely need more content like that.
Hmm.
Because, like I say, you're right. You can do anything and make some money, but if you do something that you're passionate about, something you look back and say, I'm proud of what I put out here, and then watch the reaction of the people, I
Hmm.
mean, that is something that just so great and special. So you're going to launch Gigantic Studios on Facebook Live tomorrow. We're going to make sure that we put in the pinned comment the Gigantic Studios website, so people
Hmm.
can go to it and look at it themselves, and
Yeah.
also the movie that you have on there right now, the preview, the Outlaw Johnny Black.
But now keep in mind, this movie's not done. Okay.
Okay.
Because sometimes people see the trailer and they think the movie's done. I
Okay.
shot this trailer in one day. this movie is not done. This is a movie that people can take part in and actually can be in. So that's one thing I want to make clear, that this is about is a fundraiser to get the movie done. Okay, so and then if this template works, this could be used for other filmmakers to use over and over and over, because this gigantic, we call it a fan pain, right? To where the audience has an interactive position, and they're going to be getting things that are straight from the movie. We got T-shirts, belt buckles, bullets with your name on it, like all kinds of swag that you'll never be able to get anywhere else. That will absolutely be collector's items, because these things will, there's going to be a limited amount of them ever made. So we have our own licensing, and these things are going to be collector's items the moment that they're sold. So these are the things that uh, we're going to be offering. And also, like, there's cases where you can get a walk-on role, or you may be able to name the blacksmith shop after your daughter, or your son. So there's a lot of things. You can name the horse that I ride on. So there's going to be a lot of little fun uh, contests, and getting people involved. And then, but the end result is, once this movie's done, we're going to travel around, and we're going to have VIP screenings. People who are already who donate and who are part of uh, the site, they're going to get all kinds of opportunities to come to see the premieres, and basically, I'm going to have screenings just for them that will be well before the general audience. So, there's a lot of things that uh, I look forward to doing in the future with my fan base that is responsible for getting me where I am.
Yeah, and guys, just make sure that you go to giganticstudios.com. And I'm looking at it right now. You can click the launch campaign, and that'll take you to where people can be a part of it. Correct?
Yeah, but now remember, Gigantic spelled Jaigantic, but to go directly tomorrow, when we're launching, is Outlaw Johnny Black Movie.com. Is
Okay, we'll make sure to put that also in
Yep.
the comment as well, so people can get
www
to it.
www.outlawjohnnyBlackmovie.com.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And people will go there, and hopefully they'll be a part of that. That'll be fun to name something, or even possibly say get a little short role in it.
Right, yeah,
If,
and then talk to me, because I'm gonna try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. So, we're gonna be live. We're gonna have fun with it, and some of the cast members are gonna be there with me. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to really interacting with folks, because now's the time that we can do that. Back in the day we couldn't. So now it is an exciting time for me and the audience.
yeah, being independent is the way to go these days, and like I say, the sky's the limit. If this takes off, like I said, you would change the industry completely, and that's what we need. We need to do things on our own.
Yeah, yeah, because ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do now. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the greatest thing. And then if I could do it, somebody else can do it. This template is gonna be there. If this works, it works for all of us.
Correct. So, Michael, outside of the information that you've given us, is there any other social media links that people could possibly get in contact with you?
Yeah, yeah,
Outside of, go
definitely.
ahead.
I'm hashtag Michael Jai White on Twitter. I'm official Michael Jai on Instagram. And tomorrow's live Facebook is going to be the real Michael Jai White on Facebook.
All right, everyone. So make sure to connect with Michael on social media, and go and check out all the links we will provide in the pinned comment, so you guys can be a part of possibly the movie if you want to be a part of that, and our special screenings. We just definitely need to support the brother because he dropped a lot of knowledge that we need to know about the movie industry, and definitely by this time of teaching, which most of us did not know about. So, Michael, thank you for taking the time today, speaking with us, and just giving us the knowledge.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, man. I look forward to the next time we talk.